That was super clear. So in general, if you kind of look at it, the current state of artificial intelligence and machine learning is really, you train the machine to do a certain task and do it much faster and efficient than human. Like Greg said, the machine doesn't know nothing about handwritten numbers. In 25 minutes, his laptop was able to figure it out. If you drop it in the cloud, it will be less than a second. So imagine teaching a human how to read handwritten numbers and be correct 98% of the time in less than a second. It's impossible. Machine can do it. That's the point. And then it can make conclusions much faster and much more efficient. And Greg is currently working on a project that will be able to predict the outcome of the cases for attorneys just based on the initial information about the case. Like we're at OP8 working on the technology-assisted therapy where we use AI and machine learning to help improve the efficiency of treatment of drug addictions. So things like that, I mean, AI right now is really set to help people accomplish tasks that will take humans a long time to accomplish. But there is a scary part about today's AI, and it's not scary to humanity, but it's scary to some people who are afraid to lose their job. And that is real. Like this image represents in the next decade or two what's going to happen with jobs in the United States. The black part represents the number of jobs that will be taken by machines, and the white part represents the number of jobs that will be taken by humans. So if you look at, say, retail salesperson or cashiers or truck drivers, majority of those people will be replaced by machines, by automation, by AI. So if you're in that, you might want to learn something else. But if you also see a lot of jobs that require human-to-human interaction, which machines probably not going to do for a long time, such as nurses, such as school teachers, police officers, constables, therapists, majority of those jobs cannot be automated, cannot be taken over by AI, so that will be still a need for people to be involved in those jobs. But that in a nutshell is a breakdown of where AI is, where it's going. And if you guys have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Yes, David. First of all, what amazing speakers, right? You guys are awesome. Great job. Mr. Cherlaki, you're a handsome guy. Stan, good job. Okay, so I just want to throw something in there.
You would never call me handsome.
Like you're a handsome guy? Come on, you're a handsome guy. When you're looking at these statistics, guys, it can be a little bit upsetting knowing that if you look at the black bar, that's robots basically taking jobs over, technology, and the white parts being human beings actually working that. I have a sincere desire, because I'm part of OP8 as well. We're developing AI for opioid use and other things. But the idea is this: human beings are the only organisms that run on two operating systems, emotional and intellectual. Robots never going to replace a job or a position or a role in society that requires emotion and intellect. Can't run on two operating systems. So anything that requires human-to-human interaction, I don't think we ever have anything to worry about. But technology, I call technology a shovel, right? It's a technology to shovel. You can use a shovel to dig a hole and plant a tree that everybody can enjoy, or you can knock your neighbor over the head with it. It's what you do with it, right? So if we leverage technology in such a way that it solves problems we can't, much faster, better, faster, cheaper, then it can be leveraged in a very effective way, as long as we use it for that purposes, and not just, act like Amazon to learn how to retarget better to get our money. So you guys did a great job. I think that was really good.
Yeah. It's a microphone.
Is AI ever going to be deciding something very critical, in its plan, and what if it is altered by cybersecurity or hack or something like that? How can that be altered?
So When you say critical, do you mean like running a nuclear power station or like deciding an election? I mean,
If you're using that, what you got to make a decision, and using the machine to make a decision, then if somebody wants to alter it through a hack, they could alter the decision.
sure. So, yeah, I mean, that's always a possibility, but I don't think that AI or machine learning exists in isolation. So, for that pneumonia piece, I would never just digitize lungs and then, hey, the computer's right, don't question it. We would have that in conjunction with, technicians and physicians making the decision, and basically technology-aided decisions. Also, whatever model is being used is going to be iterated upon, and it's going to be validated by multiple people. So I don't know anything about pneumonia, like I said. I couldn't diagnose it in a million years. That's cool, I guess, but I'm not gonna. So what I would say is a subject matter expert is going to sit down, and as the data scientist, I would sit down with that doctor or that technician. I would sit and say, we have all these images. Which ones have pneumonia? And he's going to go through, and I'm going to split them into buckets, and then I'm going to train the network on it. Somebody could go and change all my data, but I'm going to get a terrible score, or my model's not going to be validated properly anymore. And I'm not going to work in isolation. It would be 2 or 3 more statisticians, data scientists, mathematicians, or doctors all making decisions. So it's basically technology-aided decisions rather than technology or AI decision, and that's it. Even with Stan's car, he says he falls asleep, but I guarantee you he puts real close to the brakes sometimes.
There's questions of whether, and people ask whether a self-driving car could be hacked, and if you can get into that, can you actually crash a car?
You can crash cars right now. People, I was reading something recently about how maybe 2 or 3 years ago they hacked into the tire air pressure sensor on Hondas and they could jerk the wheel. There's somebody sitting in that car still. So anything technologically can get hacked. It's I guess like a cat and mouse game. But that being said, that doesn't mean we should not go after the best practices of having data-driven solutions. And that's ultimately the goal. So it doesn't happen in isolation. Sure.
Yeah, but if they get to a certain level, the safeguards would make it more secure.
Again, the pneumonia thing, that's never just gonna, I don't know what the false negative rate or false positive rate is. So we would have to put it in a clinical trial setting and actually validate how well it works. And, you can hack clinical trials now that aren't using AI, so.
Every time you improve a convenience of something, you give out a little bit of privacy and security. That's just how things are. You can go live in the woods with no convenience and be safe, I guess, until a tiger eats you. But with technology, there's always a possibility, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Greg. Great
You
job.
want a mic?
Now I was going to ask too. I noticed, in your models, so how does it work with discovery? Because a lot of people like to look at AI.
And I'm sorry.
I said, within your models, how does it work with discovery though? Because I know a lot of people look at using AI to discover things, or have predictive analytics, or using machine learning for that. So does it kind of fall into your point you were making with him about having those redundancies or checking, how do we validate this after we get a discovery made? Then we need to validate it. It's not the end solution, and we just put our faith in it and says, oh well, the computer says this is what it is, so that is what it is.
Sure, yeah, great question. So my models were both regression models. They were basically, it was basically making a decision, right? So I wouldn't necessarily use this, there's multiple algorithms. This is just one algorithm in the toolbox of data science. So there's all sorts of machine learning algorithms that are better suited for that type of thing. So if I had a very complex and interconnected data set and I wanted to find some crazy correlation that nobody's seen before, which is again a huge benefit to data science and to using machine learning applications, I'd use a wildly different. I would use a support vector machine and I would blow up the data set into 1,000 dimensions instead of just 2 or 3 dimensions, and I would look for correlations in higher dimensions. I would do principal component analysis. I would use all these different exploratory data. I would do exploratory data analysis, and I would look for the correlations before I even built the model. I would see what are the most highly correlated features. What ability does this type, would I use a decision tree or a support vector machine? It all depends on what type of data and ultimately what your business question is. So if I was regressing something and I wanted a decision, neural networks are great for it. They're fast, they're robust. If I just wanted to know what product gives me the highest margins that I'm selling, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably use a decision tree or just a logistic regression model. So I hope that answered your question. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm sorry if this is like kind of too far in the weeds, but like as far as automated cars go, do you have any insight on like, I think one of the biggest issues it's going to face as it comes to fruition is how the AI decides whether to protect the passenger or a pedestrian. It's like, you kind of have a catch-22 where it's like, you can't have cars that choose not to protect somebody who jumps in front of them, but at the same time, who's going to get in a car that doesn't choose to protect them? So like, do you have any insight on that or any thoughts or anything on that? I know, I got you with the gotcha question, I'm sorry. I had to ask, it's tough.
So,
Stan? Jobs unless you can answer that question.
yeah, no.
Pedestrians should stay on the sidewalk.
Social programming doesn't.
Cars don't go there.
So honestly, my initial answer would be ultimately something like that. Regression or machine learning, you're basically just fitting a line to data. So whether that line is a boundary between 2 decisions or that line is not crashing into stuff, it's basically just fitting a line to the data you have. So I would say that people are probably working on it. I don't know. I think that would definitely be mitigated by getting. I think you would definitely be mitigated by having less